Yeah. Well, we hope we're live anyway. The countdown's counting. So welcome to Leaders Live, everybody. Yeah, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown time until the various feeds catch up and settle down, folks. So we're just wondering whether the feed's actually working at the moment. We're just waiting gloriously for the feed, if it's coming. Is it coming, Sarah?
No.
Not yet. Okie dokie. So we can't wait for today's groovy show, folks. We can't wait. And we hope you enjoy this awesome Christmas themed graphics today as well, folks. Shout out for Luria Petrucci from Livestream Pros for the graphics. And this week's Leaders Live, we're hanging out with my mate, MD of Astute Law. And please give us some comments in the field so that we know that we're coming through okay. And my mate Tosh, Thushara Polpitiye, by the way, Tosh for short. And Tosh is back again by popular demand as he had so much to say a few weeks back. And good morning, Tilly. So great. Yeah, so we had lots of guys, we had lots of people, including me, that wanted a round two. So there we go. And our theme today is effective communication tips for even more success, part 2, folks. Oh, I think that deserves a ooh. So we're just wondering whether... Yes, I'm on live now. Sarah, can you see the live?
I can see the live, but the comments that I'm putting in are not showing up on the feed.
Right. Okay, so Tilly, you might need to step in. We're not sure yet. So give us a quick wave, Tosh. Oh, no, too late. This is our groovy intro, by the way, folks.
It is groovy.
It is groovy. Brilliant. So there we go. So I hope you like the groovy intro, folks. Please let us know if our audio is coming through. Please let me know if we're coming through on live. Yeah, all the mornings are coming through. That's good. We never know whether we're quite going live or not. It's quite scary. So oi, oi, people, and hi, gang. It's the Leaders Live showtime, folks. And the team today is we've got Sarah on the moderator, FD of PDX, and we've got Tilly in the background, just in case the comments don't come through for us. And we've got Darlington there too. And we've got Tosh as our hangout guest. So that's the team for today, folks. Wow. And there we go. So, we're live with Leaders Live. Spreading the love, folks. Spreading the love. Yabba dabba do. And we hope you enjoyed that short, brand new, groovy opener. We just love doing that little video. And we're delighted to be powered by your DMS as our Leaders Live sponsor. Thank you very much to Jack Wright. Quick shout out to Jack. And if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you, folks. And Leaders Live is a dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, through community, and extraordinary conversations that all are there to inspire you. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this interactive weekly Leaders Live show that's built an awesome community of like-minded leaders. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself so we can get to know you and encourage you to actively network and build relationships with each other in this community, which is what we're talking about today as well. So please join in, interact with the comments, chat to us, ask questions too as we go along. And our motto is I to the power of we. So that's us today. So, and I'm sure that you appreciate there's a huge amount of work that goes into making this show. And we know that you love what goes into producing this high quality Leaders Live business show every week for you guys, week on week. And one really easy way that you can give back and show us that you appreciate and love us too on the show is to buy me a coffee using the link buymeacoffee.com /Leaders Live or /Leaders. I can never remember which way it is. And Sarah will put the link in the feed for you shortly. Or if Sarah can't, then then Tilly will. And and there's a quick QR code as well on the screen, so you can get there with no faff. It's really awesome. So just play around with the app, folks. You get a shout out on the show as well, and all the proceedings go back into the show to make it even more better. So smash those likes as well, folks. Let me just get that up a little bit. So smash those likes as well, folks, and please follow us on YouTube, and the links are in the comments, or will be when Tilly puts them in if she can get to the comments. And and here we go. So let's introduce our guest for this morning. How you doing, Tosh?
Morning, Andrew. Really good. Yourself?
Yeah, brilliant. Rocking and rolling. Yeah. We're just always relieved that we're live, baby. So, Tosh, kick us. Set the scene for us today. Kick us off. Set the direction of travel. Where are we going today, Toshy?
Well, let me get this tree off my chin first of all. I think there you go.
Let's
Thank
see if
you.
I can
It's
move you up a
grabbing
bit.
my neck
There
instead.
you go. There
Um,
you are.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a conversation last time, Andrew,
Yeah.
and the idea was about effective communication. If you get your communication right, and it's a constant, never-ending development of a skill that we all keep doing, but you get that right, whatever your profession, whatever you're trying, whatever your desired outcomes are, whatever your objectives are significantly more likely to be achieved than not communicating effectively. And a lot of the times, that
Yeah.
means people talk about, for example, if it was selling a product, they talk about the product, not what the product does for people. And that's something we're going to talk about little later on about the afters, which is from the
Mm.
Jelly Effect, a book that I really have loved reading, and I recommend that to my own lawyers in the way that they operate, and to other people if they're looking to sell or communicate more effectively. So get that skill right. Gosh, that makes a massive difference to your life.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're getting practical today, folks, and chatting about effective conversations in everyday business situations, such as networking, such as sales, such as getting referrals, and authentic presentations, and all of those things. So to kick us off, we've got an audience question, I think, Tosh, which I'm going to put you on the spot for. Can you remember what the question is? Have you got that handy, or do you want
You
me to say it for you?
you love doing this to me, Andrew, don't you?
We love putting you on the spot. Brilliant. Okay.
Go on, you shoot.
Okay, so here's the question for you. So, when it comes to business networking conversations, do you love it or do you hate it? Question mark. So, I think that's deserves a interesting, and that'll be in the feed too very shortly. So, Tilly will pop that in the feed for us. So, I'll come back to you too, Tosh, just in a tick. So, let me just introduce our fantastic moderator. There we go. So, during the countdown, I briefly introduced Sarah as being our moderator today, and this is Sarah's second time doing the moderating, and Sarah is my FT. Over to you, Sarah. Say a bit more for us this morning.
Good morning, happy
morning.
festive morning. So this is the last one before we all break for Christmas. So
Yeah.
we're a bit demob happy today. So it's nice to say hello to Matthias and Tilly and Ian and James. Joe
Lovely.
Cooper, hello. And
Hi, Joe.
Jonas.
Jonas,
So
lovely.
thanks to Tilly. So our tech is once again giving me traumas. So Maria, hello.
Oh, brilliant. Hi, Marie.
Yeah, our post. I think there's a bit of an issue with our LinkedIn connection. So it
Yeah.
has gone live on LinkedIn, but as for me posting the comments, it's just not happening.
It's
So
just not
thank you, Tilly. I can read, but I can't add comments. That might not be a bad thing. Who knows?
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Sarah. Brilliant. Okay, so we'll come back to Sarah from time to time, obviously. So, yeah, we put some stuff in the feed. So please respond to the question, which was, if I can just remember it, where the heck was it? Oh, I've lost it. When it comes to business networking conversations, do you love it or do you hate it? So that's where we're coming. And so, yeah, just while we've got so here's Tosh again. So Tosh, we're going to start with you in a moment. Just before we get beginning and get on with the show, let's just give you a quick round of applause. Feel the love, Tosh. Feel the love. I hope you love the groovy build-up. We love doing that to our guests. So
Great.
Oh, brilliant. So, Tosh, they say business networking is just like flossing. That's a teeth flossy thing. We know it's good for us, right? But we just don't enjoy doing it, do we? So how do we get the most value out of a networking conversation?
Why do people not enjoy doing it? It comes down to,
Why?
that is the issue,
Why?
right?
Oh, why?
Because if you could overcome that challenge, that fear,
Mm,
or get around that comfort zone, gosh, that will make a difference. And a lot of the times it comes down to perhaps people not knowing what to say, what to do, how to come across as being and feeling authentic.
yeah.
We've got our false moustache and our hat and coat on when we go networking. Well, why don't you just be yourself and really believe in your product or service? So that's an interesting issue. The fear of it, I think, it just comes down to, like anything, it's the lack of the known. How do you become more comfortable with it? And we're going to talk a bit about that today.
Yeah, how to get more comfy to it, and I'm wondering what's going on in the chat. So we'll come to the chat in a minute, just to let you know. But yeah, do you love it or do you hate it? Networking. So, what kind of things help us to network better? And when we think about networking, what do we conjure up in our minds, Tosh? In our day, it was sort of going to a room full of people, wasn't it? Is that still the case, Tosh? Or is that coming back? Or what's happening, Tosh, with networking events?
I think everybody's got really comfortable with Teams and virtual connections. It's very convenient, and it's still going on, obviously. But you know what? Andrew, you and I can go for a drink over Zoom, or we can go down to a restaurant or a pub and sit down together. And there's lots of different nuances that apply when and dynamic that is different when you're in person, obviously, than when you're apart.
Yeah.
And hence the hybrid working scenario. Employers are saying, "I want you to come into work," and employees are saying, "Well, why? We've been working from home just fine." Well, maybe from your perspective, but there's a dynamic that's missing when you're not in the same room, when you don't overhear telephone conversations, or where you can just turn to your colleague and just chuck something at them, or you overhear what somebody else is talking about and you get involved. Just so many different things that are done when you're together that are different. So I think people are going back to more face to face. I don't think the business card is dead. It's certainly, I went to a first networking event face to face back in July after a very long time. And Andrew, I had no business cards.
Yeah, speak to Jo
Really,
Cooper. She does business cards.
no, I have them now, but it's
Yeah,
like
good.
it felt like
Yeah.
a schoolboy error. I mean, at the same time, it allowed me to take everybody else's cards and then be in control of contacting them. But it's a thing. It's still a thing.
And the interesting thing is, you don't really need business cards, do you, these days? Because you can just swap LinkedIn profiles, right? You can just connect on LinkedIn straight away. And that's a little conversation point. I was at a networking event the other day it was a meal. It was in the evening. And it was a fantastic networking event. And one of the first things the kind of organizer of this networking event said to the group was, look, this isn't about selling in this room, folks. This is about building relationships. So just enjoy each other's company and just relax with each other. You don't have to do the business thing here. Build the relationships. And I thought that was really a wise thing to say.
You're 100% right. Most of the people that go to networking events, everybody's looking to sell. No one's looking to buy.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're going to talk a bit maybe now or in a bit, Andrew, was this book, The Jelly Effect.
Oh, yeah.
And what it talks about is when you go to these events, all you're trying to do is arrange a cup of coffee with that person to have a proper conversation. So just
Yeah.
establish the initial interest, determine that there's a mutual opportunity or a mutual benefit or a benefit for one of you at least. But all you're not trying to sell to that person. All you're trying to do is see, is it worth going for a cup of coffee with them? That's it. That's your goal.
Yeah.
And then you explore further. That's a different mindset, isn't it?
I like that. So
Wanna buy a watch?
so you're fishing for coffee, right? Fish and coffee.
Yeah, you know the way the jelly effect by Andy Bounds talks about. He talks about when you go to these networking events, there are big fish, little
Yeah.
fish, and boots.
Ooh, boots,
And
right?
you chuck your net out, and there's a lot of boots, or kissing a lot of frogs, whatever phrase you fancy, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But there are some princes out there, so and most people want to get lots of little fish, but maybe you'll pick up a big fish. So the idea is, let's have a cup of coffee with the people that are little fish or big fish, depending what your target is, and then that's where the value gets demonstrating. Otherwise, it's like speed dating, isn't it?
Yeah, and bear in mind, people know people, right? So small fish know big fish and things like that. So, a cup of coffee is a really valuable thing. And that's what you're fishing for when you're going networking, regardless of whether it's online or in person or a Zoom call or whatever, or even just on LinkedIn, right? You can have virtual coffees too,
yes.
can you?
Yeah, and you know what I also noticed that's different when you go to these sorts of networking events is always look to how you can help that person, regardless. It doesn't have to be from you. Who do I know that can help that person? Because
Absolutely.
people remember that. And so even if you can't do a service for them directly, that guy helped me and he went a little bit extra, or he connected with me and he put me in touch with a guy that could help me with the situation. Reputation isn't what you think it is, it's what people say behind your back.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good way to look at it. How can I help you? That's it. Whether it's me personally or somebody I know, that's got to be the starting point. But I always ask them to talk first. And see what's going on with them first.
Yeah, talk first. So some great hints there. So, who do I know that can help that person? And there's a reciprocation to that as well, isn't there? I've just written that down there. Because actually that's a two-way street, right? And then you said, how can I help you is a great first opening conversation. And, talk to them first about them, right? Talk about them, not you.
Correct. Sometimes what I find is useful, Andrew, is focusing the conversation a bit more.
Yeah.
How can I help you? It's a very open question, right? What are they talking about? Personally? Professionally? So what I tend to talk to people about is tell me what your top 3 headaches are at the moment. What are your 3 biggest headaches? Or, what's keeping you up at night? That feels a little bit more personal, doesn't it? And then people start to talk. And you'll find business things, personal things. Yeah. And as a result of it, I often recommend, it might be a family lawyer because somebody's having some trouble at home, or it might be some other area of life, or it might be some sales or people development, whatever it is. You just get to really get under their skin and understand what it's like to really, in their life. And then that's what they'll remember when you really make a difference.
Get under the skin, get into the muscle. Right, let's give you a quick break for a minute, Tosh. Just come back to what's going on in the chat. There's quadrillions of comments going on. What's going on, Sarah?
Yeah, lots going on in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Most people who are commenting love networking.
Love
I'm
it.
guessing they
Love
might
it.
be the extrovert peoples in the room. Ian Price. Bit of a debate about business cards, actually.
Yeah.
Joe Cooper said business cards with QR codes are great.
Oh, yeah, love that.
And
There we go.
Ian
There it is.
Price has said, what about these swanky electronic business cards?
Ooh, swanky.
So
Yeah.
there are the humble business card has changed beyond all recognition. There are so many different types. Yeah, and so Matthias is talking about networking. If he can choose the events he goes to, absolutely loves it. It's interesting, it's fun. But when forced to attend networking events, and it's all a bit disingenuous and it's a bit fake, he's like, no, really, just want to go to events where people are themselves.
I really like that. Well paraphrased, Sarah.
Yeah,
Great.
and
Thanks, Matthias.
Kieran's made a good point about, talking to people, and it's like, what do you need help with right now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great question.
Kieran, I use the thing, what projects are you working on at the moment? What's exciting you at the minute? What's kind of on your desk right now? What's going to happen in the next 3 months? What are you gearing up to? So, yeah, I love that, Kieran. Thanks. Carry on, Sarah. Sorry.
Yeah, Matthias loves to arrange e-coffees with international connections on LinkedIn. It's a great way to get to know people.
Yeah. Right, because Matthias, interestingly, he's traveling around Europe at the moment, or various countries. He's our digital nomad. So yeah, that's a brilliant way of connecting. And you can even connect across countries these days with modern technology, right? Which is exactly what Matthias is doing. Thank you.
Yeah, it makes such a difference, doesn't it? There's so many different channels and ways and means. It's not just in a room with people.
Yeah.
Kieran says, remembering and repeating people's names. Everyone loves to hear their name.
Yeah.
That's not easy, though. I mean, Andrew, you have a particular talent for that, and I don't.
Well, actually, Kieran, I think the last time we had a coffee together, we had a virtual coffee a few days ago, and it was great to speak to you, Kieran. And, you were using my name, but thank you for that. Yeah, I do tend to. One thing, this is an interesting comment for you guys as well, listening. How do you remember people's names, and are you good at it? Because actually a lot of people would say I'm absolutely awful at remembering people's names. That's what comes out of a lot of people's mouths, doesn't it? So, how do you do that? How do you get better at it? Tosh, have you got any tips about how to do that?
Yeah, take their business card.
Take their business card and remember their name. I love that.
You know what I do, actually, Andrew?
Yeah.
I do take their business cards. I also write something on there.
Yeah.
Something that reminds me it was that person. Not all business cards have a picture of the individual.
True.
But, maybe there's something quirky about the conversation or something.
Yeah.
Because when you go back, what often happens is you've got a pile of cards, let's say, you've got 10. And then you've got to remember all the conversations you've had. And, maybe if you had a few drinks as well and had a really good time. But then it just puts a different touch when you're putting an email down rather than some generic thing. It was really good chatting about this.
Yeah.
And then you get to your cup of coffee set up,
Brilliant.
So, but in all honesty, people remembering names, terrible.
Terrible, yeah.
Absolutely, I'm terrible at it, yeah. And it only comes through repetition. Keep talking to them. They're of interest. You'll remember them. But I genuinely use the card.
That's interesting. I've got Maria Jeffers on, who's a really good, empathetic sort of connector of people. What's your hint to remember people's names? For me, we have this program that we run, and we generally go something like this. I'm rubbish at remembering people's names. So that's almost like playing golf and saying, don't hit the ball in the water for me, because actually your wish becomes your command. So rather than saying, look, I'm rubbish with people's names, actually think about something about it. I will pay attention to people's names and I will remember them. And the more we say that to ourselves, the better we get at it. That's just a little tip for you, folks. Just a little tip.
Programming, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, what else is going on?
Yeah, Dan Marshall. Great points. Hi, Dan. I agree with Tosh about asking other people first. That often takes the pressure off.
It does.
Absolutely.
And you know what, Dan? People love talking about themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
And that works. Yeah. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, Steve Whittle, you have got the late mark for the day. And asking, are business cards still a thing? Well, if you'd have been here earlier.
Stevie, yes, they are. But if you
Yes,
forget them, it's not, the end is not nigh, because you can just link in with them, right? And it's dead easy. So
yeah.
there shouldn't be an
Listen to the
excuse.
podcast and you'll catch up.
Brilliant. Okay, and carry on, Sarah.
Yeah, Maria Jefferson said exactly what you said. Don't tell yourself and others that you're bad at remembering names, as that
Yeah,
will happen.
that will happen. Spot on. Well done, Maria. Good morning, Maria, by the way.
So yeah, we're all on the same page here. Steve Whittle, I try to use their names as often as possible in the first sentence to imprint it in his tiny brain. Well, if you tell people your brain is tiny, what is it going to think?
Oh,
Stevie, you're getting some stick for being late. Sorry, Tosh, what were you saying there?
No, you know what? Sometimes it sounds silly. I give them a little jingle.
A little
So,
jingle, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, for example, mine is, I normally would say, sound employment law advice with no sentimental tosh. And then there's something, it's Tosh by name, not Tosh by nature.
Yeah.
But it sticks.
Got a new
Right?
Tosh.
So it sticks.
Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, so yeah, that's we've kind of given networking quite an airing, haven't we? And but follow up with those coffees, folks, because networking is really all about building relationships and being interested in other people. Be curious about the people that you are networking with. And one of the ways that when I'm networking and is that I go with an intention. So what's my after? Well, my after would be that I get let's say half a dozen really good conversations that I can follow up with a cup of coffee, and that's my outcome. How about you, Tosh? What kind of afters do you focus for?
Oh, absolutely what you just said, Andrew. I go to focus. I do try and have a number, regardless of whatever it is, so that I'm walking away with something in mind. It's like any objective that you'll end up focusing on, right?
Yeah.
And the most important thing is then the follow-up.
Yeah.
You know how many people they do that? They do the network, and guess what? They go back and they get on with life. Back to the firefighting, whatever else. The follow-up is everything. And it's often that hurdle that people don't execute effectively or let too much time run. Connect with them straight away while it's fresh.
Totally. I remember someone saying to me in a networking event, who was talking about networking, actually. He said exactly that, Tosh. Networking is everything. Following up is everything. Sorry. Following up is everything. And his hint and tip for us in that meeting was, look, when you finish this, how many of you will follow up straight away saying, thank you very much. Really nice to meet you. Can we connect on LinkedIn? Simples.
I would think, Andrew, also about, we've all done it. There's things you see on Facebook or online or whatever it is, and something comes up and you see something, you think, oh, all right, now I won't bother buying that. I'm not interested in that. Then it comes up again. Oh, all right, I'll have a look at it a bit later. Then it comes up again, and they keep flooding you because they realize that people are sometimes just busy in their lives.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the sixth time you're like, all right, I'll have a look at that. Oh, actually, that's interesting.
Yeah, 6 points of contact, right?
Yeah, so some people will be sick of it, but that's not who they're targeting.
Yeah.
They're targeting people. So the idea is follow up. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
People are always busy, but you can control what you do. So you can take some action, right?
Yeah. And even with those lots of networking messages that you get on LinkedIn, those DMs that try to sell you something, actually just get hold of them and say, thank you very much, but I'm not interested, and that means they leave you alone. Yeah. But you've had that touch point, again, it's another relationship touch point. Be curious with people, be interested in them, turn your attention to the other person and draw out from others what they do, and then the conversation is about you. And so, we did this poll the other day, which I thought was really interesting, actually. So our question was, so if I can just get to the question here. Business networking can be just like Marmite. Do you love it or hate it? Which is similar to the question we gave you earlier on. And 37% said love it, bring it on. Whereas a number of the people from this room were the 37%. Never know what to say, 14%. Squirmy, 14%. Hate it, get me out of here. So only 40% love it, 60% don't. 60-40. Any thoughts on that, Tosh?
Yeah, the hate it, and I imagine not knowing what to say are probably they just clicked a different selection, but it's probably the same sort of things. It's that discomfort for it, but it isn't necessarily for everybody. But I'm saying at least to try and acquire the skills. One of the things I was talking to you on numerous occasions, in fact, Andrew, is about this book I keep talking about, The Jelly Effect by Andy Abounds. One of the things I do is I give it to all my lawyers. And it really helps them understand how to communicate effectively, how to get whatever those desired objectives are from that conversation. You can apply that in your personal life, you can apply that in your business life. And it's all about not what you do, but what are the afters? Where do you leave that person after you've worked with them? People don't care what you do; they care what you do for them. That's quite a
Yeah.
selfish way of looking at it, but it's the same thing in a relationship. In a sense,
Mm.
if you are going to do things that make the other person feel better about themselves, it's more likely to bond the relationship rather than just thinking about what your needs are. So always look at it from the other perspective to see, what are the afters? After I've worked with you, where do I leave you? After we've been
Love that.
friends together, what does our friendship take us? So you can
Yeah.
apply that into anything, but it's afters, not what
Yeah.
you do. Don't look at the product, look at what it does for you
I,
or
I
service.
I love that. And also, you mentioned earlier that networking, is also about, well, how can I help you? And if someone's looking for some document management stuff, I know to go to Jack Wright from Your DMS, our sponsors. If it's a financial FD that someone's looking for, I might ask Kieran O'Donnell, who's on the line. Look, he's a contact for you. And so these are just great little things we could do. If someone wants a big print run, I know Joe Cooper's online. If I know someone needs some mental toughness, and is struggling a little bit, I would point them to Maria Jeffers. There's the people we know, right? And we can introduce those people that we know to someone new into our network, and then they do the same to us, right? The referral process goes the other way as well, Tosh. Yeah.
There's two other things I wanted to mention
Mm.
was authenticity. I
Oh,
can't
yeah.
recall the other one. I'll talk about it. I'll get
It'll come
in
back
a minute.
again. Yeah.
Your memory's going. So authenticity. Somebody mentioned about, they don't like networking because you're going into a room full of people who are, not really being authentic and so forth. But
Yeah.
you can't control what the other person does. I just remember what the second thing, it was stories.
Ah, right.
And
Okay.
so you can be authentic. Guess what? That makes you stand out. And when
Mm.
you're being authentic, I don't say I'm an employment lawyer. I do say that in some things. I'm an employment lawyer. I help employees protect their business, employment, protect their rights. Say it so many times, it sounds like, it's just automatic pilot. Tell them a
Elevator pitch.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell them how you help somebody. You know what? I did this last week, and by doing this, I got them out of a nightmare situation at work, and I got them a year's pay as a severance package. Well, how does that
Yeah.
work? And again, it's again this jelly effect thing, which is starting with the end first. Don't build it up into a long thing. Focus on what the point of interest is. But what the jelly effect talks about, which is what that book really is, why it's called that, is most people network like getting a bucket of jelly, chucking it on somebody, and hoping some of it sticks. So it would be like me saying, you know what, Andrew, I do employment tribunals and contracts of employment, and I do discrimination.
Yeah, and we've been going
Oh,
for 10 years, and yeah, yeah.
why don't I say,
Uh,
talk about you, tell me about you. And as you
mm,
start talking, I'm now seeing specific pain points or things that you want help with. Now
absolutely.
I only talk about that. I don't start talking about all the other stuff. I can help you with that, or I know
Yeah.
someone who I can help you with that. That's the focus. That's the point of the jelly effect. So you find out what it is and just focus on what's relevant. It also keeps your
Yeah.
conversations shorter, more purposeful, rather than just chit chatting away because we've got enough friends we don't see. So
Yeah.
there needs to be something effective. Enjoy it, but it needs to be effective.
So focus on what the other person is saying, and then laser your responses accordingly, and tell a
Correct.
story that actually helps them understand what you do in a relevant context, right? So that's the great thing about a story, isn't it? That you can introduce a relevant context and then tell that person about an after that somebody had having employed you, for example, to do some some legal stuff, whatever. Yeah.
I often try and use a funny story, Andrew, rather than just I helped somebody in a situation. Because you know what, a lot, especially in my industry, you're dealing with people's stress,
Yeah.
and they're desperate and they're really unhappy. So not to make light of it, but there's another side to that, and it's only because they're in that kind of a world. So you see a funny side of it. Again, some sort of humor in what you do that really helps people. That
Yeah.
will register as well, I think, more effectively.
Yeah, good humor, and that comes back to authenticity, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
yeah, let's move the conversation on a bit, and talk about sales. Now we've got a lot of salespeople on board, so we can probably ask people in the room as well about selling. But what conversation tips can help us win more sales, Tosh?
More sales, it's going to be the actually there's different scenarios you need to look at, Andrew.
Mm,
And first of all, the idea is let's go look at outcomes and then backwards.
yeah,
Go backwards.
the
So what's the
afters.
last thing we're trying to achieve is more sales, right?
Yeah,
Next is going one step back. Where am I getting those sales from?
yeah.
Is it a networking event? Is
Hmm.
it a one-to-one? Is it through online marketing? Is it a podcast? Whatever it is, understand who are the audiences and how it is you need to present it. Is it a webinar? And when you understand who the audience is, how many webinars have you been to, for example, and then you've done business with the person that's the speaker?
Yeah.
I'm going to say most people are going to be able to probably say zero. They've gone there with something in mind to learn something. My gaming would be CPD points, common professional development,
Of course. Yeah.
and you say thanks very much, and you go out the door, right? But what if the presentation was presented in a way where you say to them, look, I want to be able to help you directly with what I've talked about. You could say contact me. Again, you're giving them control. Or you could say, look, if this is something of interest to you, could you put your hand up? And then what I'll do is I'll come over to you and I'll get your business card and we'll connect.
Oh, I like that.
Now that means people are directly saying I'm interested. You're not just jellying the room again. So, and people just don't ask sometimes, right? They might
Yeah.
need help, but they just don't ask. So create the conversation. They've already seen the value. So that has got to, understand the area you're getting that work from. What does it take to make that as effective? If it's a one-to-one, it's a different dynamic. But it's understanding their pains. It's a different conversation. How can I help you? How can somebody I know help you?
I really like that. So, just ask them, look, if this has been useful, would would it be useful to meet up and have a coffee and chat more about it? Is that what you're saying, Tosh?
I'll be even more direct.
Yeah.
Like if you're interested in having a cup of coffee, put your hand up. Let's arrange it.
Yeah.
And I often do that. And then I get a direct card from them or write down their details, follow up the next day, and then something happens because there was a mutual interest that made the cup of coffee worth having rather than just for a chit chat. Another friend I'm not going to see.
Yeah, interesting. And then this is all about building the relationship up, isn't it? And then when you come to that pitch, it gets a bit more serious with the sales pitch. So, talk us a little bit about, how do you then pitch that? So you've had the cup of coffee now, you've built the rapport. What's the next step? How do you pitch that? What kind of hints and tips have you got around pitching?
I think there's two ways of looking at it, isn't it? There's the pitching where you're doing it to a cold audience, almost like where you're tendering. And what are they looking at? They're probably looking at features, benefits, costing, those sorts of things, right? That's that kind of pitching. The more common type of pitching, really, I don't look at it as it is a pitch still, I suppose. But if somebody's come to your door looking for a need of some sort, unless there's many of you that are presenting to offer the service or the help, it isn't. It's now that they've come to you for a reason. Most of the time, it's recommendation, right? That's your best referrer, in fact, word of mouth.
Indeed.
The 50% already decided to choose you because they've already been told about you.
Isn't it lovely when you get that? Yeah.
Then what are they looking for? They're looking to see that they connect with you, that you're somebody that they like, that they feel that they can trust, and that they can deliver. You can deliver on what it is you're saying. So it really is about, again, understanding what are the things that are in their mind. What do they need to see, hear, and feel to get it over the line? Cost it may be a factor, but don't put that as a hurdle in your mind. If you're expensive, focus on your value. There's a reason, presumably. It's stellar, isn't it? Reassuringly expensive. If you're a cheap and pile them high and sell them cheap, great. Just be clear who the audience is and what it is that they want, and it's what you want as a client, obviously. But yeah. So when we say pitching, I don't. It's almost like we're trying to. I don't know why I don't like that word, but it's more about demonstrating your value and why you're the right person for the job or whatever the situation is.
Yeah, I mean, classic sales would say, you mentioned the word earlier, features and benefits, and I think what you're saying is, look, has that seen its day? And this will be an interesting question for the audience. Has features and benefits, we all have been taught to sell on features and benefits, haven't we? Is that really, a sensible way of talking? Because then it ends up about your features and your benefits, where actually what you're saying is, look, focus on the afters, and if you're talking to an architect, what will an architect give you? Well, the after is you'll get a great building, not that I'll design you, a great building, but you will have a great building.
It's more than that, isn't it? Another way than afters, it's your why. When you get an architect, you're not building a great building, you're building a home. That's where you're going to grow.
Or a great office, or a great culture, or
precisely.
Something that people will.
About, you don't buy a lamp, you buy the light. You don't buy a newspaper, you want the knowledge.
Absolutely.
So that's the
Yeah.
So when you look at it, your why. What is the why? Why choose me? That's really what it comes down to. I've got to give you an irresistible scenario. Why the hell wouldn't you choose me? That's the way to look at it.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that even the receiver doesn't really think about the whys. So for instance, if quite often a great example would be, well, I need a drill. Well, yeah, so you go and buy a drill, but why are you buying the drill? You're not buying the drill because you want a drill. You're actually buying the drill because you want the hole, or you want what's going to go in the hole to hang whatever it is that's going to go and fill the hole, right? Whether it's a
Yeah,
shelf,
yeah,
whether it's a beautiful
yeah.
picture, whether it's going to make my home beautiful. It's not the drill, is it? And this way of selling is quite interesting because what you're trying to do is tease out for the client what is it that they will be left with after they've finished with your services.
What do they really want?
What do they really want? Yeah. What do they really get? I suppose, having employed you to do what it is that you do, what have they got from it? Well, they got something that made their business better or made a problem go away. If it's a lawyer, for example, like you, Tosh, what do I get from you? Well, the problem goes away.
And they don't know necessarily. Very common
Yeah.
is the case, Andrew, with employee clients.
Exactly.
I want to take it to court. I want my justice. Well, hang on. What does justice look like, really? Because the tribunal is actually only going to pay you money. They're not going to say other certain things or other things that perhaps you would like to do from a moral perspective. So, really understand what it is that they really want and let them know. And then actually it gets down to actually they don't want that. They just want some sort of wrong made right. Cough it up.
Sorry about that. Let's give you a break for a minute. Let's go to Sarah. What's going on in the chat? There's loads going on in the chat. Let's pick up on the sales theme from the chat.
Right, masses on the chat.
Yeah.
Where to start, really? Hang on, I'm just going to go back a little bit in the chat. So Steve Whittle made a really interesting comment. He says, when people ask me what I do, often I say mostly kindness and inappropriate comments. This is why I organise events and not attend them. Although his elevator pitches, I create spaces for your kind of people want to hang out in.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
That is really good. I like that. So actually you're after is you create spaces that people want to hang out in. That's exactly what we're doing here, Stevie. So, high five to you, mate. That's brilliant. Love that. Thanks, Steve.
And there's a lot of chat about stories, how people really relate to stories, and you can remember, people relate to people.
People relate to people. Yeah.
Now, Steve Whittle, again, you see, Steve, you've redeemed yourself. You are coming up with some good stuff this morning.
For being late on parade, you've done very well.
Absolutely. He's caught up massively. Value versus cost is so important, but most importantly, people value people. Be honest, open, and trustworthy, and people want to buy from you.
Hot. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. So it's authenticity. People can see if you're fake.
Yeah.
And when you're having those conversations, if you don't want to be there, it's written all over your face. If you're disinterested, it's written all over your face.
Isn't it just? Yeah. So Stevie, you're in Sarah's good books now. So well done.
Absolutely.
You get the gold badge.
You've redeemed yourself.
Sticky badge on the way to you.
Yeah. There's several comments that Kieran's mentioned. People buy from people.
The social proof thing, is that the one, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. People buy from people. I love just that reiterating that hot thing is be honest, open and trustworthy. Hot. Fantastic. Love that. It's great.
I like that too.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, we're all going to remember that. I'm going to be hot today.
You're on fire, baby. I love it. Oh, great.
What do you think about body language?
Body language. Yeah, this is all
the stat changes, doesn't it? 7% of communication is verbal. So what's the other 93% saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and you don't think about that, do you?
And I kind of hate it sometimes, Sarah, because when you read books on it and stuff, you start to overread everything. I liked it being in blissful ignorance and naturally, but the old power touches and the Superman stance and the the crossed arms and all the rest of it. Touching your nose, what are you saying? Say something else.
Yeah, and half the time people probably don't even realise what they're communicating by body language.
And that's the thing; it's unconscious, isn't it? And that's the key to body language, isn't it? And nodding and being interested and smiling. And the funny thing is, if you start with that, then you end up because you're setting your face to smile and to nod. Then actually, works in reverse almost. That you do become that more interested because now you're really focusing on the other person. And in the end, your unconscious takes over, and you're just actually building rapport with that person, matching and mirroring. These are important things, and if someone's crossing their arms, then ask them, have I said something that's made you cross your arms? And it's amazing how people then get, oh no, or they'll go back to that conversation again and say, oh, it was this thing, and then you can re-engineer that, right?
Do you ever play the mirroring game?
Yeah, it's a
So,
good
so,
fun.
so one of the things is you
Yeah.
sit there, I don't know, maybe you're at a bar and you've got your arm up on the bar and your legs are crossed over while you're standing, and the other person's mirroring you. And as soon as you clock it, you know that the rapport is there. So then you start to change your stance. I just stop leaning on the bar, I'll cross my arms, and then they cross their arms.
Yeah.
It's good fun.
It's good fun, but you can get found out, so be careful how you do that.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah.
just
So
one more
far, so
important
good.
point that Ian
Yeah.
mentions, that actually, if he goes round to saying people are hot, he might need Tosh's services because he might
To
get
get
himself
him out
into
of hot water. Yeah.
Sexual harassment.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, so I think some of the summaries here are then, don't start with the selling points of your company. How often do we hear a presentation that starts with, right, this is about us, and some of that is actually useful context because people do want to know how long you've been in business, things like, but that comes later, right? Start with what's important. What is it they really need? Maybe it's to help them for their sales to go up because, if your sales go up, that means you get more customers who want your services because and why is that? And how do I do that? Well, because you want people to have a good choice when they come to you. So what does that mean? Well, I need a good website. I need good people. I need good ways of talking to people because when I do that, I get a better presence in the market and, I increase my profile, right? All of those things lead to the sale, but really the after is the sale, isn't it? It's you will get more sales, you'll get more customers, you'll keep more customers. That's the bottom line for a lot of people.
Yes,
Tosh.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They often start. I've seen many seminars or presentations, and it starts with, "I'm from X and Y law firm, and we've been established for 200 years." And
Oh,
whereas, why
brilliant.
don't you say, okay, today I'm going to talk about this, and this is what you're going to take away from today's talk,
Yeah.
and this is where you're going to get the benefits, and this is how it's going to make a difference. Wow, people have woken up now, or they've left if they're not of interest. It just gets straight to it. Start with the end in mind, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and and people need educate. We all need educate in terms of the afters. We just don't think in this way. So this is the great thing about the jelly effect, that it does help you to look at the whole sale piece and the whole influence piece and the persuasion piece a lot more differently, which I really like.
Yeah.
Ask questions, folks. And ask for advice as well. I mean, I found that to be really a useful opener when I'm talking to people. Is I need some advice. Find out what's important to them. Use their language. Use their values and their language when you're talking back to them. Figure out the important things for them, the things that they say, and repeat those back. Not parrot fashion, but use the words that they use because they're important to them. That's about matching and mirroring, Tosh, again, isn't it?
It is, and what's really important, well, at least for me, is when it just comes. We're just doing it naturally.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
read all these books about it, or I watch these videos about it, and I go, "Oh, I do all those things," but I was doing it just naturally or unconsciously. It feels a bit manipulative when you become aware of it. That's what I'm saying. As soon as I notice the rapport building or the mirroring, it's a little bit like, oh,
Yeah.
oh gosh, it's there. Let's stop thinking about it.
Do it unconsciously. Yeah, and just be interested in the other person, and then you pick it up
Correct.
absolutely naturally. Love that.
Super authentic.
So, what about referrals then? Tosh, should you ask for a referral? How do you go about getting a referral? What are referrals? Tell us a little bit about the referral process.
Most people, the number one source of work opportunities is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Do something that is worth talking about. Do something that's worth talking about so other people start to become your advocates, and that is your best marketing strategy ever, and your reputation will build as well. So when I'm saying about talking to people about referrals, let's say I do a good job, and I expect my clients, if somebody goes up to my client and says, "Oh, I really need an employment lawyer," great, let me recommend Tosh.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for that. I am, but I'm not.
Yeah.
What I'm looking to do is make our clients almost a little bit like doctors doing a diagnosis. Oh, that person's off sick. Well, they might need help at work, or that one's being suffering disciplinary, or that one's doing this and that one's doing that. So my point is yes, you ask clients, you ask them for referrals. What I always do is I ask for 2, 3 too many, 1's too little. And what I'll say these are the kind of people I want. I want people like you. And if it's an employee, I would like, if it's your mother, your brother, or your mate, put them in touch with me. I love to help people, because when they when they refer somebody to me, I will tell that person, go and thank so-and-so, tell them that I looked after you. Because then the person that referred you continually gets feedback from the people that they're referring, whether it's a job or not. With a company, you can talk about, I'd like to speak to your clients or your suppliers, or, business owners tend to know other business owners. Three's too much, one's too little. So you ask because they will do that favor for you because you have done a service for them. You have changed their life or bought them something that they're happy with. So, but you do have to ask because we all naturally go off and do our own things. You and me, Andrew, if I
Yeah.
helped you with an employment situation, if you were an employee, for example, and you paid me, and then I say to you, Andrew, I want more clients like you that I can help. Can you think of 2 other people, please? Your mother, your brother, your mate, a client, or this
Perfect.
kind of. I'm now
Perfect.
focusing your mind, right? That's
Yeah.
different. Now you become an advocate.
And there's another point for those coffees as well, and those touch points, because the more you touch with that person, have another cup of coffee or just a quick check-in on LinkedIn, it's like a moving parade, isn't it? The parade moves on and on and on, and you stand
Yes.
in a certain point of the audience. The key thing is to keep up with the parade, isn't it? And
Yes.
keep those touch points going, because actually that touch point reminds them of you again, and they go, yeah. And then when they're speaking to someone, suddenly, because you're in mind, they'll say, speak to Tosh, speak to Andrew, because you're part of the moving parade. Yeah, that's one of the things that I've learned about, referrals, is be part of the moving parade and ask, as you've just said.
Yes, absolutely. You don't ask, you really don't get a lot of the times. It's just only if it goes to, somebody blatantly asks for somebody of your services. But as you say, you want people to become your advocates. So ask, and they will do something because you've done a favor for them. You've helped them in some way. Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed, because you've helped them in some way. Yeah. And those stories, again, they're really, when you build good rapport with somebody, they're much more likely to refer you, aren't they? Because, he's a good guy, or he's a good, she's a good, absolutely brilliant contact, is she, and so he or she gets recommended because you've built relationships.
I think context is really important in whatever service or product you're providing as well.
Yeah.
People will think about, how do I price this and how do I do that? And I just want to tell you a very quick story, Andrew, which might help with that.
There we go. A good story. There we go.
And it was called the 20,000 pound treadmill.
Oh.
And some of you may know this, and it was a course I attended with a guy called Kerwin Ray, an Aussie guy. He's the Aussie Tony, so to speak. And basically he talked about he went to this gym equipment store, and they were trying to improve the sales of their treadmills. And when he observed them, what he did, he saw that the sales team were taking the customer there, taking them to the first treadmill. Well, this is the first treadmill. This is the very basic one, and you can just run at a certain level of speed. And then he goes to the next one. This costs that amount of money. Then he went to the next one. He goes, oh, this is what the speed, but there's an additional thing where there's an incline.
Yeah.
Then he goes to the next one. That costs this amount of money, and he goes up and up the scale. Right now, what happens when somebody's going in that fashion is they're only thinking about, what do you think?
The price.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're just thinking about the price. So instead, what he told the sales team to do is take him to the 20,000 pound treadmill.
Yeah.
The top of the game.
Yeah.
And this one's got bells and whistles, and it's got a
wow.
screen, and you can run through a field, or you can run around a track. It's got an incline. It measures your heartbeat, etc., etc., etc. Now, the idea is not to sell the 20,000 pound treadmill.
Just to show
the
them.
idea is to show them what's possible.
Possible. Yeah. There's
So
an
now
after.
let's go
Right.
down. Let's go down one. Now, because what happens, they now know everything that's possible. And what it did, Andrew, as a result of that context, was it didn't increase the number of 20,000 pound treadmills, but it did increase the number of sales for the mid-level treadmills,
Of course.
where they wouldn't normally get to because they were going from the bottom up.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Context and showing everything that's possible allows your customer or your client to see and hear things that perhaps they weren't aware of. So that I think is context is everything.
Context is everything. I love that. And show them the big after, this is what you could have. But actually, if you can't afford that, doesn't matter, because there's these products down the way. And maybe you only need 3 of those bits, but this is the dream, right? And they kind of get, that's how it all fits together. Yeah.
The other thing with the power of asking, another quick story, they did a study, and they had people queuing up at a photocopy machine. And the first test was they got someone to go to the front, and they said, do you mind if I just jump in? I've got some photocopying to do. And do you know the number of people that allowed somebody to go in there?
Just because they asked.
Was 93%. And in the second one, they just somebody came in the queue and said, do you mind if I just push in? Do you mind if I just push in to get to the front of the queue? Do you know what the percentage was of that?
Low.
It was 92%.
Oh, even higher. Right. Wow.
No,
Okay.
it was a little bit less. It was a
Yeah,
little bit less. It was
sorry, a
still
little bit less,
high.
but still high. Yeah, right. Okay.
And the point was
Yeah.
that they just needed to ask is the first thing.
Yeah.
The second reason was they need to ask and they need to say why they're asking.
Ah, okay.
So the why creates all the difference. You can think about it. If you're in a shopping queue, right?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I get to the front of you? I'm really late.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you mind if I get in
There.
front of you?
Gotcha.
Yes, I do mind.
Yeah,
Or some people might
go
say,
to the
yeah,
back.
okay, yeah, you know what I mean? So it's still high,
But most
you
people will
ask
say
and
yes,
they
of
give a
course.
why.
So there you go. Think about the shopping queue. You've got 3 items. Someone's got a whole trolley full. Just ask nicely to push it and give them a reason why and see
Yeah,
if it works. Right, we'll all be doing that then. Right, so your experiment is buy 3 things from Aldi and see if you can get right to the front of the queue. And the more you ask, the more you get, right? I really like that.
Keep taking 3 things. Keep taking 3 things.
Yeah, you'd be there forever shopping, wouldn't you?
So you get to the front every time.
Yeah. Brilliant. Oh, we're distracted now. That's just brilliant. Okay, Sarah, what's going on? Bring us back on to.
I was just thinking, if you tried that in Aldi at this time of year, you might not get the desired effect. Go to the self-service instead.
Go to the self-service instead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Steve Whittle has made a really good point.
Hey, Steve, you're on it this
body-
morning.
He is.
Yeah.
Body language.
Yeah, but-
He said a colleague's got a smartwatch
Mm,
and gets notifications from her phone, and
Yeah.
she's always looking at her watch in meetings as a habit.
mm.
That is a very bad habit with smartwatches.
Really bad habit.
Yeah.
having the
And it
phone
makes
facing
her-
up.
It makes her look as if she's bored or not interested in the
Because she's
meetings.
checking the time, not
I mean,
checking
the
the
number of
notifications.
times I have to say in our family, it's like, are you listening to me? Because you keep looking at that watch.
There you go. That's for all of us with smartwatches, right? So switch your
and
switch your
it's an
smartwatch off on
unconscious
stuff.
habit.
Yeah,
Total unconscious habit.
that's a really good
Um,
point, Steve. Well done.
Yeah,
Well
I
said.
think, and again, stories is still cropping up. It's really interesting. The treadmills. Dan Marshall really liked the treadmill story.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
And it's making stuff memorable, isn't it? Whether it's a funny, quirky comment in your head about your name, or way back in the chat, I think it was Jonas that was saying that he always asks how people pronounce their name.
Yeah.
So, with a more international market, we're all very prone to mispronouncing people's names. So it is
Especially
really good
Jonas's
that-
name. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah,
yeah. How do you pronounce your
Well
name?
said.
So I can actually
Yeah.
respect you and call you by your proper name.
Perfect. Yeah,
But
well
that
said,
then
Jonas.
sticks in the mind. So I
Yeah.
thought that was really good. And then going back to referrals, Tilly says, ask and explain why to increase positive responses.
Yeah.
Very much so. Ian Price, totally believe in referrals. I do it more now, more deliberately after taking Tosh's advice earlier on in the year.
Well done. Yeah, nice one, Ian.
So yeah, all good stuff.
Joe says, "Oh yeah, smartwatch interruptions.
Smartwatch
Yeah.
interruptions.
Stop it.
Hate,
Just stop
don't
it.
like them. Absolutely stop it.
Just stop it like that. Okay, great stuff. Look, we're coming virtually to an end of the show, but what 3 tips can you give us to help us with our communication and effective communication skills, Tosh?
The number 1 is go and buy the book. It's only a tenner, and I'm not on commission.
Brilliant.
I give it to my lawyers. I recommend it to people all the time. I recommend it to students, people that pass at university. Learning how to communicate is key. So, 3 top tips: listen. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. Really listen, understand whatever it is.
Yeah.
Know
like
what
that.
it is what you do for other people, not
Yeah.
what you do. Really understand deeply what you do. And you know what? It's not the client. They often say the clients are the prize. The customer's always right. You're the prize.
Love
You're the
that.
one. They're choosing you to help them to make a difference in whatever it is you're doing for them, assuming it's a service of some kind or a product to make life easier. So really understand the difference that you make. And I suppose the third top tip is don't go to a networking event to sell anything. Just arrange a cup of coffee. Have a meaningful chat, but be laser focused, the phrase Andrew used, to really make them effective. We've got enough friends we don't see. So how can we connect with people that can really make a difference to each other? I'd also say one other tip that I didn't really bring up here, which is, what we often do when we're talking to people is we pluck the fruit, one job at a time.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's another fruit.
Yeah.
What would be really good when you're networking is start to think about the trees. How can I pass you a tree where there's lots of fruit? An example might be not just one person I can help, I work very well with accountancy firms, for example, because they've got lots of business owners that need HR, employment law help. So really, when you're talking to people, when you're trying to help each other, how can we give each other trees and fruit? Is probably the fourth tip I would say.
How can you help each other? Yeah, I love that. And yeah, think about the
Take
bigger
the fruit.
picture. Yeah, brilliant. Not just the low hanging fruit. I love that. For me, my tips were, and this is from my father-in-law, from Sarah's dad, actually. It costs nothing to talk, folks. So it just costs nothing. So if it costs nothing, why don't we get good at it? Use the principles of spreading honey in a conversation and not vinegar. That came from David Wilkes, a friend of mine. Love that expression. You know, you get
Nice.
much better conversations when you use honey and not vinegar in your conversation tone, and make other people's day by being interested in them. Those are my sort of 3 tips, and that helps for referrals, it helps for networking, it helps for sales, and it helps for good presentations as well. Yeah. So there we are. So Tosh, just share us a little bit about your what you would like as an after from us, Tosh. Did you like that,
Oh,
the way I did that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Very good, very good, seamless. One of the things that we try and do is we offer a free consultation. The idea being, without any fear of anything, you can speak to an expert who knows what they're talking about. That for free will just give you a blueprint analysis of your situation over the phone, just a chat, and figure out, is it worth even pursuing your case? If you're an employee,
Yeah.
then is the juice worth the squeeze? If
Is
you're
the
an
juice worth
employer,
the
how do I
squeeze?
get around? Yeah,
Love
how do I
that.
get around these things?
Yeah.
So how can I resolve this? That's what they're looking for. Is a crystal ball walkthrough. So my afters here is employers and employees. If you're an employee, if it's your mother, your brother, your mate, if it's an employer and yourself, and you've got a problem with staffing issues, you don't know how to deal with those problems caused by employees. There's help out there from experts, from us, that will just give you that blueprint answer on how to resolve it, or let you know how to walk away from it.
Yeah, so a quick chat, and you know whether you've got a case or you haven't, and and literally, as I said earlier, it costs nothing to talk. How about that? Perfect, Tosh. That, and folks, that's brilliant from a lawyer. It costs nothing to talk. I couldn't
And it's
resist
true.
that, Tosh. But no, good on you.
And it's
Good on
very
you.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
very true.
it's and it's just giving people that space to get the help that they need. That's the
Yeah.
idea.
And there's a form here you can fill out, and so actually you'll get an answer very quickly. So fantastic, thank you, Tosh. And your website, Tosh, is astutelaw.co.uk.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
right. And it's even got a WhatsApp button on there. So if you're really feeling lazy, you can even just send us a message,
even
and
more
we'll still
better.
book a call
How
with you.
quick is that? Yeah, brilliant. And the links are in the feed, folks. So that's absolutely
Thank you.
fantastic. So thank you, Tosh. That's brilliant. And thanks again for
Thank you.
round 2, Tosh. I mean, just wonderful to have you on the
I
show
appreciate it,
again.
Andrew.
Everybody loves a Tosh, right? So there we go. You've lots of love in the room for you today. Thanks again for
Thanks.
enlightening us with an extraordinary conversation. And we love having you on the show, my friend. Absolutely
Thank you,
love having
Thank you,
you.
Andrew. Appreciate
Very
it.
welcome. And look, this show will be on podcast too shortly from the team. So Darlington will put that into the feed soon. So please also join us on our LinkedIn Leaders Live group to keep the conversation flowing over there. And follow us on our Leaders Live company page. We're building that at the moment, and we're going to go live on that next week. We're hoping as well, because we've got just enough people to do that. So this is fantastic. And remember, folks, to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well to help us build that. And all the links are in the comments field. Before I get on to what's on next week, and there's a few things on the chat, so we'll finish that in a moment. But remember that Leaders Live is a free show, folks, for all leaders, for directors, for managers, for entrepreneurs, for CEOs who are interested in business growth through infotainment, edutainment, that kind of edutainment thing, and enjoy taking part in these extraordinary conversations. And a quick shout out for your DMS. We're delighted that we're sponsored by document management solutions experts, your DMS, and particularly Jack Wright, our sales director, who's a fab guy. And thank you very much for sponsoring us. And a quick word on what I do commercially, just so you know what I do from a commercial perspective. My own commercial offerings, I run a team leadership and development consultancy called PDX Consulting, or just PDX for short. Please contact me. There's a please ask. There you go. I'm doing what we said we'd do. Please contact me if you need help in your business to develop effective leadership, to fix any team issues, people issues, sales issues, operation team issues, so that your people can operate at their very best to run successful and profitable businesses, folks. And I do that through a set of specialized development programs, such as high-performing teamwork, network, executive and team coaching. I'm a fully qualified coach, NLP and business diplomas, and a whole lot more. You can check out my website, which is going to go in the link very shortly if it's not there already. And the goose for next week, folks, let me just bring that up. So the goose for next week, well, it actually is not next week. We're going to be back after Christmas, folks. So that's going to be in the new year on Tuesday the 10th. That's Tuesday the 10th at our normal time of 8:45 a.m. where we hang out with David Heiner. And David Heiner is a mate of mine who's a multi-award winning international professional speaker. And he talks about big, massive, hairy goals and how to achieve them. So we know you're going to love it, and we can't wait. And the timing's just right for that, as it is always to speak to our David Heiner. So he's just brilliant. So thank you again. And just before we wrap up, let's just quickly move to Sarah. Just got just a moment to do that. What's going on in the chat, Sarah? Anything to finish us off with?
Lots of love for you, Tosh. Lots of really useful stuff.
Brilliant.
Happy Christmas to everybody. Lots of festive greetings.
Lovely.
And yeah, I'm glad you remembered, Andrew. Not next week. You won't be doing this next week. You'll be doing it on the 10th.
Indeed.
So yeah, happy Christmas to everybody, basically, from the chat.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. So there we are. So we'll see you all in the new year. Be there or be square on the 10th of January. And we're going to close out with our outro now. So we hope you enjoy our outro, and we'll wave goodbye to you then. So from our Hangout guest, Tosh, from Sarah and me and the Marketing CX team in South Africa and all of our sponsors, your DMS, we wish you a great week ahead and a great Christmas. And thank you very much. Cheers for now.
Bye, guys.
Cheers, everyone. I love this groovy outro. It's just lovely. They're the reindeers. Absolutely brilliant. Cheers for now, folks. See you again next week. Ta-ra a bit. See you later, alligator. Cheers for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.